Well, the Arizona Diamondbacks might not have much to play for at this point for the rest of the season, but they do have a great opportunity to give the young guys an opportunity to get that experience. We got our guy Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue stopping by and talk to us about it. Don't you go anywhere. We're starting in 30 seconds.
Of the PHNX D-backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX, and I am thrilled to not be alone here on a D-backs day off. Of course, this show is brought to you by our friends at Bet365 and Game Time. Download the Bet365 app today and use our code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Follow a few easy steps and you'll get some bonus bets. Over at Game Time, sign up using our code of PHNX and you will get $20 off your first purchase. I do, of course, have Damon Dog on the ones and twos today. I also have Herbie here in the background, but most importantly, I got this guy, Jordan, from over at Yahoo Sports and the Baseball Barbacast joining me. Also known Sawyer Hawks fan, known Seattle Mariners guy. Great to have you here, buddy. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yes, indeed. So much to talk about. I'm excited. You say, oh, not so much to play for. The snakes are always fun to talk about. I know it's been a weird year in the desert, but always fun hopping on with you. So thank you so much for the invite.
Hey, man, thank you again for coming on. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a tough time right now for the Diamondbacks fans. There's a lot to be disappointed about with this season and the way things have gone. And honestly, overall, I think that they did what they kind of had to do at the trade deadline. I guess first thing I wanted to get from you is what were your overall thoughts on what Mike Hazen and his front office did, considering the state of this Diamondbacks team after the way this season has gone?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're in the position that you're at, where you never want to be no one's planning on selling, or at least very few teams are planning on selling when the season begins. And obviously, a team like Arizona that had real expectations coming into the season, it sucks. It's not fun to watch some players that have certainly become very popular in Arizona, whether it was just this year, in the case of Josh Naylor, or even over the past few years with guys like Gino, obviously Merrill Kelly. I mean, these are some. It's not easy to say goodbye to those guys. No. That said, I think you have to say, okay, well, once you realize you're heading towards a sell, you understood what the priorities were going to be in those moves, which is adding upper level pitching. And they did that across the board. I think they acquired, to my count, 8 pitchers. Mm-hmm. And then Tyler Locklear, who of course we can talk about. And that's clearly what has kind of sunk this team, unfortunately, this season in particular, is just that depth on the mound. So long way to go for a lot of those young arms, many of whom we've yet to see in the major leagues to actually prove it at the highest level. But as far as executing a deadline strategy, it seems like that they did that pretty convincingly.
And it was a crazy deadline. I mean, it really was, because it felt like, we were kind of talking about what you guys were putting out there about when trades happen, how close to the actual trade line day it happened. But this year, not only did all the action kind of happen there at the last possible moment, it felt like, but on top of that, you did have the market kind of get flooded by teams that, at least from our perspective, we were a bit surprised to see kind of turn into sellers. Some teams, we still don't know really what they were doing. They traded away talent. They got some talent back. Like some teams did, I guess, some good job at trading, but it felt like as it is most years, you were either a buyer or a seller. But some of the pieces that got moved were crazy, and especially some of the ways that the NL West has changed now kind of impacts us greatly, especially with the addition of Mason Miller here to the Padres. But just overall, I mean, it was an insane deadline. And I mean, do you remember anything like this happening where this many teams made these moves at the deadline?
I think the point that you hit on there that really resonates is just how difficult it was to figure out which directions teams were going. And obviously
Right.
Arizona was at the center of that conversation. I think by the time we got to that last week, well, they kind of did us a favor ahead of time
Yes.
in trading Josh Naylor, right? And you know, not waiting to do all of their business on the last day, I think did make a difference there. Now you can argue whether it was a mistake. Could they have gotten more for Josh? I don't really worth litigating that. But I think just looking big picture across the league, to your point, I mean, like the Rays are always weird, but like they were going in a lot of different directions, right?
Yes.
The fact that
Yeah.
Kansas City ended up being kind of a soft buyer, the fact that the Giants being kind of a soft seller, the fact that the Twins traded 10 major leaguers. It was, Cleveland, another team that only ended up really moving one major piece in Bieber. You thought maybe they could move more pieces. And of course, the classe of it all certainly changed the calculus there. But
For sure.
just a lot of teams that were just kind of difficult to decipher. And funny enough, that's still true. Even after the deadline, we're still kind of like, all right, how many of these teams do really, really believe in? But I think Arizona kind of acknowledged the situation that they were in, acknowledged what they were kind of up against, particularly in the National League wildcard race, which is a little bit more daunting than I think the American League. And I think that they made probably the right big picture decision.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when you ultimately see some of the teams that decided to, even like you said, be soft sellers there, like the Giants and such, some of the teams in the American League that decided to be sellers, they were much closer in their wild card race than the Diamondbacks were. So while we were sitting here at one point, while they were kind of 5.5 back, 4 back, going, well, would you sell at this point? Would you really do it? We were kind of being a little bit more like, nah, you go in, you're only 4 games back. Yet you see teams that were 4 games back or 5 games back, waving the white flag just a little bit. And I mean, again, it's understandable because it's not just about getting that playoff spot by the end of the season. I think you also have to assess your talent level and your ability to beat some of these other teams that are going to be there. I do know anything can happen in baseball once you get to the postseason. I feel like that's been proven, but I feel like you also have to be realistic about where you stand amongst the contenders.
And that's exactly right. And I think that was a reasonable self-assessment for Arizona. Unfortunately, it doesn't make it any less disappointing, less disappointing based on how some of this was in your control, some of which was not, right? The Corbin Burns thing is a gut punch. But some of these other pitchers obviously were not performing like you had hoped. And they'll be the first ones to tell you that. And I think that some of how it happened in the rotation is maybe less predictable. In the bullpen, I think that's an area where it was maybe a little bit more like, well, and again, there are some injuries there too, for sure.
Sure.
You have to accept, but that looked like kind of a weak spot. I think obviously what's tough to swallow for Arizona is just like you did have this offense that looked like one of the best in the league.
Oh, it's crazy.
You felt like, and even still, right? Even still,
yeah.
They're still going to probably score a good amount of runs, in the second half, even without Gino and Naylor. So that part sucks. But I also think that with a lot of those core pieces that you kind of know are going to be there, we could start talking about kind of the next iteration of the team is, all right, like this isn't a rebuild, but we have to kind of take the sensible step to put us in best position to go forward. Because if you, for some reason, if you decide to be buyers this year or decide to hold and then some of these guys leave, like then you're in a much darker place to start next year or a much flimsier place here. Whereas now kind of have that second level of pitching depth that, we'll see what progress these guys can make over the rest of this season. And then going into spring, you can start talking about some of these other pitchers as viable options in 2026.
And you hit the nail on the head. It really comes down to pitching. The Diamondbacks are not in a great position for 2026 and beyond as far as pitching depth is concerned. So this was a great chance to do that, but it doesn't make losing a guy like Gino any easier. I mean, Gino arguably from July last year to this year was one of the best hitters in baseball. And it goes beyond that. I feel like Gino's like just a very special human being. I don't know if I've ever seen a player that's coveted by his past teams and fan bases the way that Gino is, right? When Gino was on the trade market, the top contenders for Gino were all teams that he's played for. Mm-hmm. The Detroit Tigers were like, we want him back. He started with us. The Reds were like, we should have never gotten rid of him in the first place. The Mariners were saying the same thing, right? Like, and again, Gino's had an incredible run with the Diamondbacks, so it makes him makes Diamondbacks fans hold him in their hearts very much so. But like I said, he's also just a really, really good person that it feels like every single fan base wants back.
Oh, 100%. And I think that he is, we've talked about this on our show. He really is as much as the good vibes only thing you could kind of roll your eyes for the average. I mean, he embodies it to a degree
He
that
does.
is overwhelming. I mean, it's just the smallest interactions. If you've, and I don't know if you've have or haven't direct interactions with him.
Oh, I've hugged him several times. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Yeah,
he like I remember spring training, Mariners spring training a few years ago. I was there this would have been in 23, I think. First day of camp, it was like before most position players had arrived. So it was the first day he got there, and he came into the clubhouse in Peoria, and there was just like a couple media in there, and he like kind of gathered everyone together. He's like, "All right, guys, we're having a good day today," and he's like, 1, 2, 3, and that was like it was him, and he went and he gave everybody a hug that he showed random pictures that I'm sure he's never met before. It is so real. And by the way, it's also funny because I also have a memory of 2024 spring training when he showed up at Diamondbacks camp for the first time and he didn't know anybody. And I know how hard it was initially for him to be traded there. And I remember seeing him there at the time and being like, man, this is tough. But then also thinking this is not going to take long for everybody to love this dude.
Yeah.
And now here we are, of course, year and a half later, and that's exactly what happened. So it's so easy to root for him. It was easy to root for him when he's struggling, easy to root for him when he's one of the best hitters in the league. And we'll see what kind of impact he can make for Seattle, because the reality is, even though there is evidence, I know Mike Petriello wrote a great piece about him and the adjustments that he's made with his stance that are compelling, that he is, meaningfully different than he has been, even when he has been a generally successful hitter. Still a streaky guy that strikes out a bunch, right? So that it's going to kind of go hot and cold. But that said, I think the fit for him and Naylor in a Mariners lineup that's already pretty good, I think is obviously, on top of all the off the field stuff, is why it's such a good fit.
Right. And Naylor, it took no time for Naylor to start finding success in Seattle. It's incredible. Yeah. We kind of thought it was a little bit of a novelty to see him steal bases like he did for us. We were making jokes about how he was the only chaos causer on this team any longer, and yet he goes to Seattle and doesn't stop.
I watch, I'm in the Cleveland area now. I watched Josh Naylor a good amount over the last couple of years. This was not something I was prepared for. So I don't really know what to make of it. I think base stealing in general fascinates me, especially in this era with the new rules. And there is part of me, I feel this way when I watch the Little League World Series, when I watch college baseball. I'm just like, just go. These guys can't catch you. Most catchers are not good enough to control the running game. Obviously, at the major league level, there's so much else that goes into it, and it's not that simple. But this is a pretty hilarious example of him. I mean, again, him getting 20 steals before 20 homers.
And the Diamondbacks and the Diamondbacks, that are a team known for stealing bases, are struggling with that this year, which is another funny thing that they lost that production from Josh Naylor. And of course, the Diamondbacks did just kind of go to the AL West. I've said this before, but they just kind of aided the arms race there. They're like, here, you guys have these offensive weapons. Here, you guys have this pitcher, and duke it out, But with the season Gino has been having, there's a lot of Diamondbacks fans that are disappointed with the return, which is obviously going to be the case when you trade a guy like that away and then the return is prospects, right? But I guess overall, what were the Mariners fans feeling about this trade on their end? I know so many people are probably thrilled to have Gino back, but was there a feeling like they got him on the cheap? Was there a feeling that they might have given up too much in the 3 players that they traded away? What was the kind of pulse there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the macro takeaway that goes beyond just the specifics of this trade, although we can obviously get into those players, is we kind of learn it every year, is that the rental hitters just don't always go for as much, which is weird to me. Sure. I kind of am a little bit perplexed by that, because you would think that those are more bankable, even if it's a rental, that you feel like what you're getting more than you are with a pitcher when there's more injury risk and there's more. But it seems that the pitching is really what is paid a premium for, even on both bullpen and starting pitching, which is surprising. I think that as we get back to the specific case of Gino, and again, he's 36 homers, and not that he hasn't been an awesome hitter. I think that his trade value and the perception of it was also probably blown out of proportion because of just the lack of other options. I mean, there weren't any other hitters really that were going to move. And so with that in mind, he just, with each passing day and every time he hit a homer, you're like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest third basemen of all time. And it's like, all right, hold on. Like he's awesome. Everyone loves Gino,
he's
but it's
mortal though. That kind of thing.
We're not trading for Juan Soto here, right? So it's a little bit different. So,
well, and I mean, look, just to, I guess, back that up, that, hitters aren't worth what pitchers are. He's struggled a bit since he's gone to Seattle, and that is something that can always happen, especially with a guy like Gino. There's a lot of emotions probably, tied up in all of this, and it probably takes him a minute, but again, it is one of those things that it does feel like the Diamondbacks fans were a bit disappointed. However, Tyler Locklear is making an impact immediately here since the trade. And I mean, I think that makes a big difference that we have a player here that we got in return that is impacting the major league club currently. Yeah.
And honestly, it's funny because these teams obviously have a pretty significant trade history. We don't have to recap all of those, but hey, Dom Canzone. Now, why am I bringing up Dom Canzone, right? Now, when that trade happens at the time, Mariners, they're on the other side of it. Now, there was a lot of other weird dynamics there, but when they trade Paul Sewald,
sure.
I mean, you couldn't have had a less popular. I mean, that was a catastrophe. And who did they trade Paul Sewald for? Right? It was Dom Canzone. Mm-hmm. It was Ryan Bliss, and it was, who am I forgetting? Who the last one was? Josh Rojas. Okay,
yeah, that's right.
And Rojas was more of an established major leaguer, but Bliss and Canzone, because they had proven nothing at the major league level, you were like, come on. And especially because Seattle was still in like a competitive window. This is why I'm driving them up. They're like, well, what the hell has this guy ever done? But they were clearly buying in that we're getting him close to major league ready. He's not ready to be a good major leaguer yet, but he's closer to that than trading for, teenager and A-ball. And if we're still in contention, this is someone that can help us. Now, it took a couple of years. Dom Canzone looks pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
Tyler Locklear, I bring that up because that's a similar one where it's like, man, I mean, he's pretty much torched the minor leagues. He's someone that is not a total non-prospect. He was I remember I saw Tyler Locklear, one of the farthest home runs I've ever seen in my life was when he was at VCU playing at University of Maryland. And my brother went to Maryland, so I was there, and I was like, oh, I got to see this Locklear guy, this kind of pop-up mid-major. And my God, I mean, he's got real juice. So there's no doubt about that. But he's not just a total all or nothing hitter. I mean, this guy has shown real on base ability as well. And then you see the adjustments that he's made over the last couple of months with some of the stance and changing his hands and just kind of his load a little bit. I mean, it's hard to ignore how much of a stark difference it was in the minor leagues. Now, again, we have to see that happen in the major league level. That has not yet happened. And that means more than anything he's going to do in the Pacific Coast League, no matter what team he's playing for. But like I said, whether it happens this year, whether it happens next year, the year after that, that's kind of the target there. I think that there's some sort of template there where it's not as sexy of a name. It's not a top 100 prospect. It's not a Colt Emerson or whatever. Yeah. But realistically, it turned out that the Mariners didn't have to beat anyone else. Like no one else was offering better than this, right? Like there's a reason that Arizona thought this was the best package.
Right.
Ultimately, some other teams opted to get other third basemen, like the Reds, like the Yankees. There weren't as many teams that were really, really pushing for it. And so you end up with three players in Locklear, Burgos, and Cranton, who clearly they think can help right away. And I think Cranton is a really important part of this conversation because he's someone that I think could be like a high leverage guy by the end of next season. And I know he's still in A-ball now. Yeah. I know he's had some injuries to start the season. That's a guy that I do not doubt that they're looking at him as part of the bullpen solution as soon as next year.
Oh, trust me, with the season we've had, it was no surprise that one of the players that we traded for immediately ended on the IL as being a pitcher, right? So that was no surprise there. But you do bring up that Paul Sewald trade, and it's interesting because the Diamondbacks don't make the 2023 postseason without Sewald. There were a lot of fans here that were upset with some of the performances and whatnot, and he did struggle at times, but it's always important to remember what he did and the fact that the Diamondbacks would not have made it and had that special run to the World Series without Sewald. And I guess it's not a pitcher, but do you kind of see Gino and Josh Naylor, like considering the history between these two teams, like this almost feels like this is a similar situation where offensively this can kind of tip the scales in Seattle's favor with a close race right now happening between them and the Rangers there for that final wildcard spot.
Yeah, and I think that they're still looking at how banged up Houston is and thinks that they're not completely out of reach either.
Sure, right.
Now,
So
Houston deserves the benefit of the doubt until they don't. And like, no matter who's playing for them, like, why would you pick against them? Because until they have kind of fall on their face and actually, now I know they did against Detroit in the postseason last year, but they still rallied to come back and win the division. And so I'll give them that credit. But to your point against Texas, yeah, I mean, I think that for so long, this Mariners lineup has just been like, come on, like this is, if only they could hit, right? Everyone says, and now it's a totally different situation where, I mean, this is one of the best lineups in the American League. I mean, there's really no disputing it. And even with Cal Raleigh kind of cooling off over the last couple of weeks, now that you have some of these other pieces, it just makes it so much easier to kind of swallow a bit of a cold stretch for some of your other top players. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty aggressive move, obviously, for them to get those two rentals, but Naylor and Suarez both fit so well. And ironically, now I think the questions are still more on the mound, but this isn't a Mariners podcast, so I'll save that for another day.
Yeah, someone will start screaming at me here soon enough if we don't switch over to Diamondback stuff. No, totally. I mean, but it is funny. I mean, these teams have had a history. We were joking that a trade was inevitable between the Mariners and the Diamondbacks long before it was even an actual rumor, and then it actually does happen. And it's not just one trade, it's two. But overall, the Diamondbacks, again, they're not in a terrible position here with a lot of the young talent they have. They just have to figure some things out and kind of have a change of guard here with the pieces leaving. You brought up Gino. I mean, again, Zach Gallen was a similar situation where you talk about the Diamondbacks getting nothing for him. Teams were apparently offering a ham sandwich for Zach Gallen just based on the year that he's had. And you just got the feeling that if they did trade him, he would go somewhere else and absolutely shove for the rest of the year and be the Zach Gallen that we knew he could be. And again, it would have looked awful. So all things considered, if no one was offering a first round draft pick level player or a second round, level draft pick for him, the Diamondbacks do have that qualifying offer they can make to him, which if he accepts, it's not a terrible situation, and if he turns down, also not a terrible situation. So that's where they stand with that. But speaking of the draft, I know you're always dialed in. Can you tell us anything about the Diamondbacks' number one overall draft pick there, Kaysen Cunningham?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually sat down with Kaysen at the draft combine. I ended up interviewing about 20 players when I was there in Phoenix, of course. So
that's right.
That was a nice little fitting setup for that. But yeah, I mean, this is a kid who has been the one of, if not the best hitter his age since he was 11. I mean, like, wow. Like he's been playing travel ball for probably longer than you probably should be playing. Like you hear these stories about how his dad organized his travel ball team when he was like literally like 8 or 9. Like I know this is normal now, but the point is like this kid's been in it. Like he has been living this life for almost 10 years, for better or for worse. But he's an awesome kid. And I think that by the time when you're that's relevant context, because when you're that kid who has been seen and scouted so much, right, for so many years against top competition, whether it's 13U, 14U, 15U, Team USA, blah, 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 all these showcases over and over and over. It's almost like a prospect fatigue before you're even in pro ball. I mean, that's almost what he was battling. Sure. That by the time even his senior spring, it's like, Kaysen Cunningham, is he really still the top guy? It's like, yeah, no, he probably still is. Like he's pretty much at no point has he really not looked like one of the best hitters. Of course, the questions are, is he a shortstop? How much power is he going to hit for? Because he's not a big dude. But that hasn't scared off the Diamondbacks in the past.
It does not. No,
obviously. Now in this case, we're going the infielder route, right, which is a little bit different than the Slade Caldwells and the Corbin Carrolls, et cetera. It's Alec Thomas, right? Like this is a little bit different. But if they believe he can shortstop, even if he is a second baseman, it's just the kind of hitter that you just don't have access to. And I have to imagine when you look at how the first round shook out, I didn't think he was going to be there at 18. I mean, I think it wasn't that crazy because there were so many high school hitters this year in that range that someone was going to end up kind of falling to kind of that back half of the first round. But Cunningham, I mean, I love it. I think, was he number one on my board at that point? Probably pretty close to it, honestly, looking at it.
Yeah.
And so I have to imagine they're pretty thrilled to get him.
Yeah. And I was going to say, in baseball, do you really care about positional needs when you're drafting a high school kid? I mean, do you, because you have no idea where you're going to be in the 4, 5, 6 years when they finally become a big leaguer, right?
Yeah. And also it's like, can he hit is still the number one question. Now that doesn't mean you're going to get it right. Doesn't mean that they're guaranteed, but that just makes you feel so much better about everything. I mean, I look at a guy like Kevin McGonigal right now, who, I mean, is Casey Cunningham going to be as good as Kevin McGonigal? I doubt it, because Kevin McGonigal is apparently amazing. For those unfamiliar, he's now like a top 5 prospect in baseball with the Tigers, but he had a similar story. Another guy who was old for his class, not a big guy. Is he a second baseman, shortstop? It's like, yeah, but we've watched him hit for 5 years. Like, what more do you want to see? And now he gets in a pro ball, and now he's showing more power than expected and more. And so I think Cunningham could follow a similar path. That's like a super duper optimistic outcome. But McGonigal was an even later pick. I think he ended up going in the comp round. So that's a similar style player that I could see.
I know you love the draft, and I know there's probably not much that can be done about it, but and we've probably already even had this conversation on this show. But is there anything that can be done to generate more interest in the MLB draft? Do you feel like it's impacted by the fact that it's there like in the middle of All-Star weekend, in the middle of the season? What do you think? I mean, obviously I know a lot of it is the fact that these guys don't come to their sport and make an impact immediately the same way you see in basketball and football. So I know that's a huge part of it, but it also just feels like in general, the MLB draft kind of comes and goes and barely makes much noise, I guess, outside of the true baseball psycho world, our little sicko world.
Totally. So, I mean, I see it both ways. Obviously, as someone who's very passionate about the event, like I want to view it as positively as possible, but I totally understand the obvious limitations. I think it's just funny. You mentioned it's like, it just kind of comes and goes. It's like gets lost in All-Star Weekend. I mean, the point of bringing it to All-Star Weekend is that it would get more attention.
Right.
I think that in some ways that has happened. In some ways it hasn't. I think it's a little tough. I still think it's better that way than doing it while college baseball is still going on. And to your other point about like, yes, obviously you're not drafting players that you expect to immediately be your starting quarterback to save your franchise, or immediately be your starting shooting guard to, start this next era of your NBA team. Right. That said, you're not waiting as long anymore. I mean,
that's
especially
true.
For these college guys. And listen, when you take a high schooler, it's going to take some time, but man, Connor Griffin's probably going to be in the big leagues next year. Like, but specifically for the college guys, and then the way that college baseball has grown, I think that it's slowly but surely, I think it can become a little bit more of something that is accepted as like, all right, like if we're going to, I mean, listen, Paul Skeens is an extreme example, but it's not just him, right? I mean, you look at guys like Nick Kurtz, there's a lot of guys from last year that are already in the big leagues. Like it's not all right, see you in 3 years, or maybe you suck, I mean, there's some element of that's still there, but I think that it's a little bit closer and more tangible than it has been ever before. And I think that that's really important. And I think it might take a while to really start to process that for the casual fan, but I think it's going to start to help when they realize how close these guys actually are.
Well, we thank you for your coverage of the draft and for what you guys do over there at Yahoo Sports to make sure that we're all as informed as possible. So thank you again for stopping by, Jordan. Appreciate your time, man. Make sure to follow him everywhere. Make sure to check out the Baseball Barbacast over there at Yahoo Sports, wherever you get your podcast, and just listen to him. The man's brilliant about baseball. So thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping by, dude.
Patrick Forbes is going to be pretty good too. If he can stay healthy, I'm just saying.
Hey,
thanks for having me on.
I love it. Give us all the hope. We need all the hope we can get right now. Appreciate you, man. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. And on the other side of this break, we are going to talk about the Diamondbacks matching up with the Colorado Rockies here at Chase Field starting tomorrow. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, we thank our friends at Pure Edibles for getting us over nights like last night, where we have the devastating loss here to the Padres and lose the series. And of course, Pure Edibles is an amazing company that can help you get some good sleep with their uplifting effects, get some good sleep, or get some candies that have some uplifting effects to help you feel better after a game like last night. Pure Edibles is a full-fledged candy company offering more than just gummies. They do offer gummies, not just covered in sugar like all the other companies. They are some delicious gummies that don't require all that sugar. They also offer Kicks, which are their version of Starburst, hard candies, and chews. And all of those offer a wide variety of effects that you will find on each tin. That way you know exactly what you're getting before you get into the pure edibles. They were created in Flagstaff, Arizona, and now they're made right here in the Valley, made at Phoenix, Arizona. And they are designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose. So go find yourself some pure edible products from one of over 130 dispensaries across Arizona. And you know that moment of dread when you realize you have left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the counter, at the store you were in, or on the roof of your car. And we've all been there. So especially me, I've lost several pairs of sunglasses, and not just any sunglasses. I've lost several pairs of Shady Rays, and they have your back long after you purchase. And I can tell you from personal experience, they do not make it difficult for you to get a new pair of sunglasses with their lost and broken replacement plan. You can get a new pair even if you lose or break your sunglasses on day one. And here's the wild part. Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip at all, just replacements. You can actually check out the full line of Shady Rays over at shadyrays.com. They are adorable frames with some incredibly stylish looks to them. They also have some of the clearest optics in their lenses that you can find. And don't sleep on those color rush lenses. They are totally worth the additional charge because they make life look beautiful. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Of course, they're customer service department will take care of you if you have any issues at all. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you get them online. You can return them for free or exchange them for a new pair within 30 days. No questions asked. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And yes, the Arizona Diamondbacks do welcome the Colorado Rockies to Chase Field this weekend. And we know that the Rockies are a pretty bad team. I know there was also a period of time there where there was some crazy talk by the one Damon. I don't know if you remember that, but there was talk of the Rockies possibly passing the Diamondbacks in the standings. I know we were being dramatic. We were losing our minds, but the Diamondbacks lost a bunch of games. So it was earned. It was rightfully so. However, after watching what the Blue Jays just did to the Rockies, I don't know if any of you will feel very confidently about that. But let's take a look at the Rockies this season at a glance. And yes, the Rockies are a bad team, and I have no problem calling them that. They are 30-84 with a minus 316 run differential. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games. They have an OPS of 687. This is probably the most damning stat here, Damon. This one, 687 OPS, and you play at Coors Field. Are you kidding me? You play 81 of your games a season at Coors Field, and you have the 25th OPS in baseball? No, that's not good at all. Their starting pitching ERA, as predicted, as understandable, again, with what I just said, is 6.46, which is by far the worst starting pitching ERA in baseball. In fact, how bad is it? There is not even a team right now with a starting pitching ERA of 5 or higher. I believe the next highest or lowest, or whatever you want to call it, worst pitching ERA is 4.99. There's a huge gap in between the Rockies, almost a whole run and a half, and the next team. Their relief pitching ERA is 5.53, which is 29th in Major League Baseball. And they're also terrible defensively. They are minus 26 in outs above average, which is 29th in Major League Baseball. But let's talk about that last series, shall we? Because I don't think a team could be coming into a series with the Diamondbacks in a worse position, which means they have to get right against the Diamondbacks, right? That's inevitable. It's inevitable that the Rockies take 2 out of 3 here. But they did just allow a historically bad performance to happen. They allowed 63 hits to the Blue Jays in the 3-game series. That's 63 hits by the Toronto Blue Jays. That was the most since the New York Giants had 66 hits in a 3-game span dating back to August 1933. 92 years ago. It's not great history. They were outscored by the Blue Jays 45-6. One of the games was 20-1. The other game was 15-1. Oh, it's not good for the Rockies. Not good for the Rockies. And let's take a look. We're getting some Let's Go Rockies in here, and I think we've finally achieved the point of lunacy here. But Josh in the chat says, not a religious man, but we must respect the Lord and Savior Dinger. If we disrespect him, we will suffer from his righteous indignation. I was always under the impression Dinger was a girl. Is Dinger a boy? Is Dinger our savior, our Lord and Savior? Is Dinger? I won't question it, because at this point, I don't want anything like this to happen to the Diamondbacks ever. So if praising and naming Dinger as my savior, it will help that, then all hail the great Dinger. But let's take a look at the probable pitchers for this series. PHNX Sports says Dinger is a man. Okay, well, I don't know about that, but I still think it's up for debate. Let's take a look at the probable pitchers here for this series. The Diamondbacks do have Zach Gallen going in game one. Zach Gallen, 8-12 this year with a 5.48 ERA. He is going up against Austin Gomber, who is winless, 0-5 this season. However, he is a left-handed pitcher, which is going to cause trouble for the Diamondbacks. 6.18 ERA with 27 strikeouts in a limited performance this year. Meanwhile, Zach Gallen, 124 strikeouts this season. Game two, Bradley Blaylock is going for the Rockies. Again, another ridiculous ERA. He is 1-3 with a 7.68 ERA and 18 strikeouts, going up against Erod, who is 4-7 this year, 5.53 ERA for Erod. And again, having some better performances since returning from that injury. I know he's had at least one stinker out there, but so far so good for Erod since coming back from injury. And then last but not least, Brandon Pfaadt going up against that monster TBD. Always a problem for the Diamondbacks. Brandon Pfaadt this year, 11-7, 5.02 ERA, 102 strikeouts. And again, it probably really doesn't matter who the Rockies throw in there in game three, because whatever. But this whole situation now between the Diamondbacks and the Rockies is meaningless, I feel like. And I think it's almost time for Damon Dog to give the Diamondbacks infinity symbols for how far they are back in the division and in the wild card. But that's for another time. But hey, again, this is I'm predicting this might be the worst attendance we've seen on a Friday night game. But Saturday is Star Wars Day, and they are giving out a Corbin Carroll Star Wars bobblehead. So if you wanted something to root for, some reason to go to Chase Field and watch this team play, there you go. I gave you one. One more reason. I think it is ending today. This probably doesn't help my shill status with Killer X, but you can still get the Diamondbacks MLB package currently on sale for $17.99. Some say it's an overpay. I can't really argue with that. But hey, if you want to watch the Diamondbacks for the next 2 months for $18, I've definitely bought drinks in Las Vegas that cost more than that. So hey, go get yourself some baseball and watch it for the rest of the season. But today is Thursday, and you know what we do on Thursday. We're going to take a little trip down memory lane and talk about some of the things that have happened in the past with this team on another edition of Throwback Thursday. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, it is no secret that everyone in Arizona is looking for ways to stay cool. And I specifically am one of those people. With the current state of my air conditioning in my car, it can be miserable out there if it's too hot in your home. And a great way to prevent that from happening is to get yourself a smart thermostat where you can schedule exactly what your temperature is going to be at different times in your home. And you can also use a smart device and an app to set what your temperature is before you get there. It's one of my favorite things to do. Before I leave the office, if nobody's here at the house, I'm turning that bad boy all the way down to 74. So it is frosty when I walk in the front door. And again, these are just some of the things you can do if you have a smart thermostat home. If you are on an APS time of use plan, can use your smartphone or device to automatically adjust the thermostat and take advantage of lower cost off-peak hours. Plus, remember, for every 1 degree you raise your temperature in your home, you can save 2 to 3% on your energy costs. Smart thermostat can help you manage your energy bills, and APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. If you already have a smart thermostat at home, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards. Plus, free installation is available at marketplace.aps.com. Must be an APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. And of course, you might have some epic summer plans, but you know it's not in your summer plans. What shouldn't be in your summer plans is crazy overages for your phone. And that is why everyone should make the switch over to Mint Mobile. With Mint Mobile, you can get the coverage and speed you're used to, but for way less money. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for just $15 a month. So while all of your friends are sweating about their overage charges, you will be chilling literally and financially with Mint Mobile. Of course, you can say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages because Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. Make sure to check out that they have everything they have to offer over there. If you have your own phone right now, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Plus, again, you can get that for just $45 a month. Most of us are paying more than that just on $15 a month for 3 months. $45 for 3 months. I'm telling you, I pay far more than that in a single month. So this year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer in a 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. That's mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on a limited plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right. Well, Ryan in the chat says, give me a Grogu Corbin bobblehead. I love that. You know what would be even better is Geraldo Perdomo, like you said, with the Mandalorian. Yes, Mandalorian has little baby Corbin in a satchel off to his side. And then in that satchel is baby Corbin as baby Grogu, and his head bobbles too. So it's a 2-person bobblehead. What are we doing? Why is that? What Diamondbacks, bring me in. I can help with your ideas. Me and Ryan will figure this whole thing out. RA also says an Ewok bobblehead. Oh, I love that. I don't hate that idea at all. I'm looking up here at my bobblehead shelf for what I could grab quickly, but unfortunately they're all too far away. But I got some Star Wars bobbleheads up there. I got the Paul Goldschmidt. Hold on. Let me get it down. Very similar to the Corbin one. He also has a removable helmet, and he, according to me, is also overrated in an X-Wing fight. Just saying. Anyway, we also have more to talk about when it comes to Throwback Thursday, and not just Paul Goldschmidt or bobbleheads, but someone needs to let me know, because I don't know if I don't know if enough people know this, but Billy Crystal is still one of the owners of the Diamondbacks. And that still is wild to me. Actor, comedian, one-time Yankee Billy Crystal, still one of the owners of the Diamondbacks. That's something that's been a part of our franchise for a long time. Also on this day, back in 2002, not on this day, but on August 10th, I should say, in 2002, Randy Johnson struck out 14 Marlins to move past Tom Seaver and into 5th place on the all-time strikeout list. Meanwhile, just a few days later, on August 16th, Curt Schilling struck out 12 Cubs at Wrigley Field to earn his 20th win of the season back in 2002. The reason why I bring this up is because it disgusts me to think about how good these two guys were on this team at the same time. You got Schilling winning 20 games a few days later, and then a few days before that, you have Randy Johnson moving past Tom Seaver into 5th place on the all-time strikeout list. I don't know if you know this, but baseball's been around for a very, very long time. On August 6th, 2004, Arizona Diamondbacks CEO Jerry Colangelo announced he will leave his post at season's end to be replaced by Jeff Morad, and things have never been the same since Jerry Colangelo left this team. We should all be thankful. You talk about praising Dinger. All hail Dinger. All hail Jerry Colangelo for what he has done to sports in this valley. Thankfully, due to Jerry Colangelo, he talked some sense into this ownership group and got them to realize that fans were not going to come to Chase Field just for a picturesque night out at the ballpark to have picnics with their families. And in fact, this city wanted a winner. So luckily they made that pivot very early, and we got success that maybe we didn't deserve quite yet, because that happened entirely too quickly for us. And speaking of that, a big part of that success was one Luis Gonzalez, who on August 7th, 2010, had his number retired. It was the first Arizona Diamondback to ever have their number retired by this team. Also on that same night, I'm sure you guys remember, one Chris Young became the first Arizona Diamondback ever, and the fourth player in the last 40 years to hit both a leadoff and walk-off home run in the same game. So that was a pretty fun night. You're watching Gonzo get his number retired, and then watching Chris Young destroy a team single-handedly. Must have been good stuff. On August 8th, 2015, Randy Johnson became the second Diamondbacks player, third overall, to have his number retired. Number 51 retired in the pregame ceremony. So a lot of jersey retirement ceremonies happening in the past of this team during this week. And just a couple of other things. This one's very important, perhaps one of the most important things ever. Brad Ziegler became the first Arizona Diamondback player to ride in the on-track bullpen cart on August 7th, 2018 in a regular season game. The reason why that's funny is because that happened in August, and that damn bullpen cart was around since the beginning of the season. And nobody wanted to ride in it because nobody wanted them to. No, they didn't want to look weak. You can't look weak. You can't be carted from the bullpen out to the mound. What am I? A small child? What am I? A person that can't walk under their own power? I'm a reliever. I'm a man. Damn it! They already have issues with self-esteem down there in the bullpen as it stands. But thank God for Brad Ziegler for being strong enough, for having the guts to become the first Arizona Diamondbacks player to ride in the on-track bullpen cart. And last but not least, this one's just funny because the Diamondbacks are having a very much a down year when it comes to stolen bases, as we talked about there with our guy Jordan. But on August 6th, 2023, during the height of the Diamondbacks chaotic chaos causing chaos, the Diamondbacks set a new franchise record in stolen bases in a game with 8 against the Minnesota Twins, breaking their original record of 7 that they set back in 2000. And of course, all games with 7 or more stolen bases have all taken place on the road. So the Diamondbacks definitely like to steal more when they're not home, and that makes sense. You don't want to steal where you live. It's not good for relationships. But a lot of fun happened this week in our history. Unfortunately, not a lot of fun happening right now for this team, but a great opportunity for us as fans to come out, see these young players that the Diamondbacks have added to their roster, and see if one of them stick around and become the future of this franchise. Don't forget, even though I'm making jokes about Paul Goldschmidt, there was a time when Christian Walker replaced him, and we hated that. And Christian Walker ended up becoming pretty good player for this team. So hopefully we see something similar there with Tyler Locklear. I already like Andrew Hoffmann so much, aka Superbad. Don't forget, Andrew Hoffmann looks like Jonah Hill and sounds like Michael Cera, and hopefully we can use that Superbad nickname, like ironically, or like saying he's bad, like that, like Superbad. But I do want to remind you guys that the PHNX Cardinals residency is happening at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass on August 28th. So join Johnny, join Bo, join the entire PHNX Cardinals crew, join the rest of us at PHNX, because we will be having our draft that night for our fantasy football league. So just come on by. The residency night starts over there at 4:30 with a Cardinals live podcast. Then it is followed by an NFL season preview at 6 p.m. And then we will be having our PHNX staff fantasy football draft at 7 p.m. You won't be able to wait to see what I have to wear for that. So it's going to be incredible. All diehards who attend will receive a free drink ticket for the event. So make sure to come out and have a great time with us. But we do talk a little bit about the future today of this team that's currently here on this team, but we do also want to talk about the future of this team from the farm system. And it's time for us to take a little trip down to Snake Farm. One guy that has been absolutely killing it in Reno is the one, the only Tommy Troy. He has not been there very long, but my God, Tommy Troy has been doing some things already. Again, small sample size. I know I'll pump the brakes. I'll relax, but Tommy Troy with the Reno Aces is Barry Bonds, basically. He has a .462 batting average. He has a 1.456 OPS. He has 5 RBI in 3 games played. He has a 533 on base percentage, a 923 slug. And yeah, man, I mean, of all the Diamondbacks prospects so far, Tommy Troy continues to look like a guy that could end up being a big part of this team's future. And we already know that. I don't think a lot of people are surprised. I think Tommy Troy's name has been, kind of on people's lips for a while, but what he did for the Amarillo Sod Poodles, he had a 286 batting average with a 382 on base and a 461 slug for an 843 OPS. And that was in 87 games played for the Sod Poodles. So his development. Albert Almora Jr. continues to do good things for this team. You never know, man. Honestly, I mean, the Diamondbacks kind of are covered in depth as far as outfield depth is concerned, but and Albert Almora Jr. by no means is a prospect, but the Diamondbacks have a couple of guys in their system like this, and you just never know when they could end up being called up, being needed, and could be good at a major league level for this team. Albert Almora has a 333 batting average, a 948. He has a 948 OPS, not a 948 slug. That would be pretty incredible. That's like Tommy Troy in 3 games. He has a 418 on base percentage, 24 RBI so far this season, and just doing great things there in Reno. A depth piece for sure, but a guy that the Diamondbacks could turn to if needed. Last but not least there on that list was Ashton Izzy, and he was part of that trade. 2.25 ERA. He was part of the trade for Gino. 2.33 walks per 9. He has himself actually strikeouts to walk ratio. He has a 1.375 whip. No home runs allowed so far in 2 games played. And again, these are all small sample sizes for these guys, but guys definitely worth keeping an eye on. And when it comes to Ashton Izzy, I feel like we've heard nothing but great things about him in the Diamondback system. So he is a guy that, again, still just at a single or high A level right now for the Hillsboro Hops, but worth keeping an eye on, because this team is going to need to build from young, controllable players, just like they have so far. And one positive thing is at least they've been not shy. They've not been cheap about extending guys like Geraldo Perdomo, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte to keep them as a part of this team's long-term future. But the opportunity is there. And this is a great franchise, I feel like, to be a part of when it comes to that opportunity that the Diamondbacks currently offer. I feel like a lot of young players, and I mean, even at one point during this season with the depth they had, you kind of look at these young players and wonder where they're going to play, where they're going to fit in. Like we talked about there with Jordan, it's not something you typically worry about when drafting because you have no idea what these guys are actually going to be when that time comes around. Diamondbacks obviously focused on pitching as far as their trades were concerned, and that was a smart thing to do considering what they've been through this year. I would add 100 pitchers to this organization after watching the lack of depth put them in the position that they've been put into this season, right? So the controllable factor there in trades is asking specifically for arms versus position players. But when it comes to a draft, you want to do what you can to just get the best available player, and outside of that, throw everything else out the window. I think most teams do that, obviously, but it's great to hear the very positive things said about Case and Cunningham. And overall, it feels like the Diamondbacks went out there during a time that we as fans hate, during a time that we as fans, I think, feared and dreaded that it would come, where, we get to this point, the Diamondbacks do not have, the season that any of us hoped that they would. And you make these trades, and now we have to sit here and learn about these young guys and wait to see if their development comes along and turns them into a pitcher or at a major league level. There's going to be a period of time down the road where some guy surprises us with how good he is, and we're like, is that so-and-so from the Josh Naylor trade, from the Eugenio Suárez trade? I mean, it's kind of how that stuff works out, right? So it's going to take a while to see if any of this stuff works out on the Diamondbacks end. Meanwhile, like I said, as much as we, I don't know if I'm not allowed to talk about Gino anymore, according to certain members of this chat. But what I will say is Gino has been struggling as a member of the Mariners. I think he has a 130 batting average since joining that team. Again, small sample size, a lot of factors probably impacting him. But so far, Tyler Locklear's production has looked pretty good for the Diamondbacks over there at first base. And even though he has not been perfect, it's nice that the Diamondbacks aren't in high leverage games anymore. I know it's still going to bum us out to watch this team lose, especially if they end up losing any games to this Colorado Rockies team that just got outscored the way they did, right? But a great reason to watch at this point is to see these young guys, to learn more about them, and again, just to watch potentially the next iteration of the Diamondbacks, starting lineup come together. I think Tyler Locklear is going to be a big part of it, and I think Andrew Hoffmann is going to be a huge part of the bullpen. Remains to be seen, though. So far, those guys have had a minimal amount of success, and they've looked pretty good at a major league level. More than anything, I feel like they look ready at a major league level for sure. 2BMC says, kudos to Hazen. There's always a chance. There's always a chance Domo and Corbin don't dominate like you hope for years to come, but they have high upside given what they've done so far. And even if and then there's more, he said, plus there's something to be said, even if they play league average, you're not really overpaying them. That's a great point. And that's something that the Diamondbacks can't afford to do. Even with the fact that this year's, payroll was the most in franchise history, right? This was a record-setting payroll for this franchise. There's no blame here on Ken Kendrick in the front office. They opened up their wallets and they made, they brought in guys. It didn't work out, and sometimes that's the way seasons go. And honestly, one thing I have been thinking about is, like, ever since the opening day decision to start Corbin Burnes over Zach Gallen, or not to start Zach Gallen over Corbin Burnes, it's felt like this season was doomed. Just that one decision. And again, I know this is going to make entirely too many people in this chat happy for me to say this, but that's a Torey Lovullo decision. Perhaps maybe it's a discussion with Mike Hazen in the front office. I don't really know. I feel like there was perhaps too much sentimental thought that went into that, for instance. But there definitely is a feeling that ever since the Diamondbacks decided to go with Gallen instead of Corbin Burnes, it's had that ripple effect, or like RA says, the butterfly effect on our season. And that's definitely a decision that Torey Lovullo had a say in. I think that maybe that decision was made for the wrong reasons. And ever since then, we've been doomed. This season, at least, has been doomed. But do we have a super chat? There's a starred one in there. Oh, I'm glad we waited until Jordan left to read any BCSC chat. No offense to you, BCSC. We love you. Says there's a lot of new booty, though. Some look good. You're right. Some of that new booty does look good. And it'll be excited to see if that new booty can turn into some major league ball players, because that's what the Diamondbacks need at this point. And again, this team cannot do some of these things that some of these other teams are doing, to go out there and overpay guys, paying players half a billion dollars to be a part of the franchise. It's just not conceivable for this team. So young players and trades and drafts and things like this are the only way this team can kind of get out of the situation that they are in. And I think that they've done a good job so far. But the rest of the season, I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler Locklear. I'm looking forward to seeing Andrew Hoffmann. I'd love to see Brandon Garcia get called back up. Let's get all the guys that are close here, get them major league experience. Let them play. Let them make mistakes during a time when none of this matters, right? Like, none of this matters. And I hate to say that. I hate to be so dramatic. I already called the time of death on this season far earlier than this series with the Padres. But after watching the last two losses in games that the Diamondbacks definitely were in a position to win, it feels futile to go out there and still try to root for this team to do anything and make a run at the postseason. It feels impossible, quite frankly. So that hill might be a little bit too much to climb. However, we can all chill out. We can relax like the original owners of this team wanted us to do, and just go enjoy baseball, take our families, have a picnic. I don't think anybody wants that. But at the same time, too, let's do our best to enjoy some baseball, because these young guys are fun to watch, and I think they're going to be an exciting part of this team's future. So, but I appreciate you guys stopping by. Thank you so much for your time today. We will be back tomorrow with another post-game show after that first game of the Rockies series. So make sure to join us for that. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. Jordan Shusterman, I think is at J or _J Shusterman_. It's weird. It throws me for a loop every time. Also, you can follow Damon at Damon Dog with a DAWG. Of course, we're all Damon's dogs. Bark, bark. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much again for your time. Appreciate you stopping by. I hope you guys stop by tomorrow. Great to see you all, and great to see the future of this team getting an opportunity to get some playing time. So appreciate you. See you tomorrow. Until then, behave yourselves. Have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you get a chance to see the young guys play.
We all silly like the mayor.